I would be sleeping on the couch in the living room and wake up. It's dark in the house. For some reason, I instantly get up and walk to the front door and go outside. It's like something was compelling me to go, but I wouldn't hear anything. I always found it weird. The inside of the house would be my new house in town, but when I would walk outside, it's my old house with the forest behind it. I'd walk to the side of the house and go down our driveway towards the forest and stop to look past our fence to our neighbors. We both shared the forest, and they had a long drive that went along the side of the forest. It was on a hill, so it was much higher than where I was standing, and I could see something black crouched over something. It looked like it was eating a deer, but I couldn't tell because it was a few hundred feet away. Since I couldn't see, I would hold up a light to see, and the sound of it clicking made whatever it was whip its head around fast to look at me. Hey y'all, I am back to read 5 more of your own terrifying stories today, and these are pretty rough, especially the first one, so I would hop up if I were you, and I would turn on a light and get cozy, and let's get into it. So the first story isn't actually our followers, it is our follower's fiance, and it's translated from Hungarian, and it's terrifying, and let's read it. My fiance had a step-grandmother that liked no one, not even her kids, but she liked my fiance. When she died, something started tormenting everyone except for my fiance. The night after her death, there were 3 knocks on our aunt's door. Inside were only the aunt and the cousin. The uncle was working. The cousin Lily, thinking it was her dad, opened the door and saw nothing. About half an hour later, they heard the sound of keys moving in the door. Lily shouted, "Dad is coming home," and she ran to the door just to open it and see nothing. After my fiance's uncle came home, they went to bed. They all shared a bed. The uncle saw something that was a little transparent but mostly black climb onto him. He tried to fight it off, but this thing sat on his chest and began choking him. He somehow got a hold of his daughter. She woke up, and at that moment everything stopped. About 4 days later, the uncle goes missing. They found him in pieces, but in one place like a puzzle in the forest that the step-grandmother liked to do rituals in. Next to his arm, there was written on the ground, "Dad is not coming home." That's even scarier the second time, honestly. Okay. I'm giving you guys no time to process that, and we're getting into story number 2. My house has really bad energy, and me and my friends have all had creepy things happen. There's a lot of paintings in my house that were all made by my deceased great-grandmother. There's this one painting by the bottom of my stairs that me and both of my friends have seen blink. Sometimes when we're walking downstairs, we see it blink at us and look away out of the corner of our eyes. There's also another painting in the living room, and sometimes we hear weird sounds coming from it. I don't really know how to explain the sounds, but it kind of sounds like pencil being pushed on paper really hard. Me and one of my friends used to have sleepovers constantly, and a bunch of those times we heard those weird sounds coming from this painting. Another one of my friends was in my upstairs bathroom, and when he was walking out, saw his reflection in the mirror smiling at him, but he wasn't smiling. I've never seen that happen before, but he's seen it once or twice. When I was about 9, me and another friend thought it would be funny to Google how to summon a demon, so we went in my spare room and tried it. I don't think it worked, but ever since then, that room has had such bad energy. My friend and I used to have sleepovers where we went in the spare room alone once, and she heard a really faint mumbling or laughing sound. I've also heard that before, but I didn't hear the laughing, just mumbling. The energy in that room is so bad that every time I walk past it, my stomach always feels weird and I have to shut the door. My bedroom is basically the only room in the house that has good energy and feels safe. But last night I was calling my friends, and I had this feeling that there was something outside or in my closet door. I couldn't stop looking at the door and at my closet. I was staring at it for maybe 10 minutes, and I asked my friends if they've ever felt things outside my door, and they both said yes. My living room is also really weird. I don't go in there much because of the bad energy, but when I do, it always feels like there's something outside. The back door is a glass sliding door with no blinds or curtains, and there's a green light that always shines in my house at night. All of my closets are really weird too. There's a closet that has a little entry to the floor crawl space, and it always feels so weird. Another time when I was younger, me and my friends were playing hide and seek in the house, and she hid in the closet across from me. Another time when I was younger, me and my friend were playing hide and seek in my house, and she hid in the closet across from the one with the crawl space. She heard whispering behind her the whole time. I've hid in there too while playing hide and seek when I was younger, and I heard the same thing. It's really faint and you can't make out any of the words, but it sounds like there's someone whispering. Another thing, I used to see shadow figures in the house when I was 8 to 9. I saw shadow figures too when I was 7 in a different house, but when we moved here it got worse. One of them was really tall with long arms, and the other was an average size, but it would always be at the doorway, and the longer I looked, the closer it would get. I've asked my mom if she's felt bad energy in the house or had weird experiences, and she said yes, but that it's nothing and that my friends are making it worse. I tried to cleanse the house last night with incense because I didn't have sage or anything, and it helped a little, but it didn't do much. What do I do? And I did email them back. I recommend using dragon's blood to cleanse the space, or a selenite stick. And remember, whenever you cleanse, to fill that space back up after you've ridded it of negative energy. Put positive energy back so that the negative energy can't fit back in. All right, story number 3. This wasn't in Appalachia, but it was deep in the woodsy part of Colorado, which is pretty freaky in its own way. It's not as intense as some of your other stories, but it's just something to add to the pile. Almost exactly a year ago, me and my 2 friends and my friend's family were staying in an Airbnb for a few days. There was a hot tub right outside the back door that faced the woods, and it was a nice place to hang out even though the air was freezing. One night at around 11:30, we hear a loud metal clang. I could tell it was from about 50-ish feet away, and it was enough for me and my friends to book it inside when we heard footsteps in the snow a few seconds later. I thought it might have been some kind of animal, but I could tell that it was definitely something bipedal because of the rhythm of the steps and how heavy they sounded. It was also accompanied by that feeling of, don't think, run. 2 nights later, me and my friends are getting ready to go in the kitchen. The room where we were staying in was at the end of this long hallway, and it really didn't help that the whole house kind of just turned black at night. We were walking along and heard whispers around us, and of course we all froze. We keep walking and talking for a little, and we decide to go out into the balcony for some fresh air. Lo and behold, the same whispers happen. We went back to bed after that, and I don't remember anything else happening during that trip other than a constant feeling of being watched throughout the whole thing. But isn't that kind of a given when talking about this stuff? I hope you can get something out of the story. I'd like to hear what you think and the stuff could have been. I'm not super versed in superstitions, so it would be really nice to hear your interpretation of what exactly went on. So, the stuff that lurks around the Appalachian Mountains can be anywhere, like at point blank. But there's also stuff in other places that it could be. It's best to just ignore stuff. If you can't figure out what it is, especially if it came from outside, just pretend you didn't hear it. And that's the best course of action because this stuff really is everywhere. All right, story number 4. I believe there's a chance that I was somewhat hunted by a little windy boy or something of a similar nature when I was younger. I really don't know what else it could have been, and I've had mixed reactions of it because of where I was located. I live in southern Michigan when this happened. I've heard that it definitely was from others and that it was impossible because they can't be in Michigan, so I don't know. They can be anywhere, and they're definitely in Michigan. As a note, I do believe in them, and I don't like to mess around when it comes to forests, and I try to be careful with anything that could bring something towards me. I used to live in a home in Michigan where we had a decent-sized forest behind the house. My family often hunted there for deer, and my friends and I would play during the day there. Honestly, I don't remember anything weird happening when I did live there. The weird thing happened when I moved away into the town from the countryside I was living at. When we lived in town, I had a reoccurring nightmare. I don't really dream much, and if I do, I tend to forget it right when I wake up. I have insomnia, and I don't tend to stay asleep all night, and as a kid, I was sick a lot, so I already didn't sleep well. With me not dreaming often, I find it really weird how vivid I can still remember this nightmare. Let's read about the nightmare. I would be sleeping on the couch in the living room and wake up. It's dark in the house. For some reason, I instantly get up and walk to the front door and go outside. It's like something was compelling me to go, but I wouldn't hear anything. I always found it weird. The inside of the house would be my new house in town, but when I would walk outside, it's my old house with the forest behind it. I'd walk to the side of the house and go down our driveway towards the forest and stop to look past our fence to our neighbors. We both shared the forest, and they had a long drive that went along the side of the forest. It was on a hill, so it was much higher than where I was standing, and I could see something black crouched over something. It looked like it was eating a deer, but I couldn't tell because it was a few hundred feet away. Since I couldn't see, I would hold up a light to see, and the sound of it clicking made whatever it was whip its head around fast to look at me. I still couldn't tell what it was besides black and glowing yellow eyes. The next thing I knew, it had jumped from where it was to the fence to tackling me down. Its limbs were too long, it was heavy, and it stunk so bad. I never really got a good look at it because its entire mouth would be open over my face. Then I'd wake up. I had this nightmare maybe only a few times, never again after I moved from Michigan. There was at least one time that I woke up and was standing at the front door trying to open it. I was a sleepwalker as a kid. Whenever I tend to talk about this to people, I get uneasy. The most recent time was after texting to a friend that I'd been visiting home, a different home, now in the countryside in Indiana, that I was feeling uneasy and that I had thought the previous night that something could have been by my house. I went to look at the room that faces the backyard, and there in the backyard is open fields and such. I had noticed some pretty distinct handprints on the window. I sent my friend pictures of it, and it freaked him out because he always believes in the forest boys. I remember the fingers being too long and that I would have had noticed handprints before because the windows fog often. The fact that it was on the second floor and it's difficult to stand on the roof there wasn't great. It freaked me out for the rest of the night. And they did say that they didn't have those pictures anymore, or you guys know I would have already asked for them. But yeah, that was a windy boy. Congratulations, it's a windy boy. Yeah, that was definitely what that was. Let's read our final story. When my friend and I were 12, maybe 13, we lived at the base of the Appalachian Mountains in like the middle or west of New York. I lived across the street from her, and whenever I would walk over to her house, I would feel watched. One day we went to the woods to go look for a necklace that my sister lost, and we found it near the gas line, which we were not allowed near. We'd been looking since around 1 p.m. that day and were playing around to make it fun, and it had gotten super late, like sun almost completely down late. We didn't notice until our brother and sister came running to us, saying how they were worried and how dark it was. The light in our eyes never changed. To us, it was like 3 p.m. and the sun was still maybe at the 5 p.m. mark. First red flag. When we were walking around to their house, I suddenly felt this intense need to vomit because my ear pressure felt off. Second red flag. We had stopped so I could lean against a tree and I could either vomit or not, and a twig snapped behind us. Final red flag. We all stood up straight and my friend tried to turn around. I grabbed her arm and said, "You heard something?" She said, "Yeah," and I reminded her that no she didn't, and if she saw something, no she didn't either. We all started walking fast towards the direction of her house and we heard leaves shuffling behind us. Mind you, it was now very dark and my phone was almost dead, but we were using it as a flashlight. I turned the brightness up and we walked a little bit faster until we started seeing the lights of her porch. I could have sworn I felt a gust of wind on my back, but no one else did. I had goosebumps and my teeth were chattering. We made it to the backyard and halfway up the house and bolted to the gate and into the house. We shut and locked the door so fast a picture fell off the wall. We went to look through the window facing the woods and saw a tall figure. It was kind of ghastly brown, so it was visible to us in the dark. It had a white face with no eyes. It started walking back into the woods, and my sister started sobbing. It turned back around, and its eyes were glowing red. It started back to the house and then stopped, spinning fast around into the woods and running away. We were all supposed to sleep in the basement that night, but instead we slept in the mud/laundry room with no windows. When I walked to and from her house or to and from mine, I always felt an intense stare on me and would sometimes see those eyes. My family and I moved to Georgia last year, and it seems like something followed us, but the eyes are gone. Her brother sees them now. We went camping about a year after this story and had the same experience on one of our hikes all the way back to the RV. I'm never going hiking or camping again, and I don't blame you. It's so important to not acknowledge things because if the... Gigi, you scared me. Come here. I thought that thing was behind me. Oh my God, okay. Yeah, it's so important to not acknowledge these things because they will just take it as a game and it's not fun. But anyways, that is all I have for today. Thank you guys for listening and I will see you next week.